Behind Diana Ross' dazzling smile and unmatched stage presence hid a storm of secrets. The world knew her as the queen of Motown, but few dared to look beneath the glamour. Fame gave her the crown, but it also brought jealousy, betrayal, and painful rivalries. In an industry filled with egos, Diana fought harder than most, not just to shine, but to survive. Some singers crossed the line, some broke her trust, and others tried to steal her spotlight. What followed was not just dislike, it was hate. And today, we reveal the 7 names that turned Diana Ross heart cold. Before we dive into video, please subscribe to our channel. Diana Ross' life was never just about music, it was a battlefield. From the very beginning, she stood out in the Supremes. But standing out came with a price. Jealousy brewed within the group, especially from Florence Ballard, who believed Diana pushed her out to become the lead. And she did. Motown founder Berry Gordy saw Diana as the star, and their secret love affair only made things worse. Soon, Florence was gone, and Diana was center stage. But whispers of betrayal followed her forever. Her journey through fame was not smooth. She faced ruthless criticism for going solo, and many doubted her without the Supremes. Yet she rose, earning hit after hit. But that spotlight burned hot. Rumors of diva behavior followed her everywhere. Reports claimed she fought for top billing, demanded the best dressing rooms, and refused to share stages with those she considered beneath her. Some said she ruled through fear, others said she was just a woman fighting to be respected in a world made for men. Her personal life was no less chaotic. Her relationship with Berry Gordy ended painfully. Her marriages crumbled. She had to raise 5 children while battling public judgment, media pressure, and inner demons. There were arrests, breakdowns, and long periods of loneliness. Behind the luxury, Diana often smiled for cameras, but behind that smile lived years of anger, wounds that never healed, and names she never forgave. In her world, friendships could turn into feuds overnight. People she once called family turned on her, and some never made it back into her heart again. These are not just rivalries, these are wars fought in silence. Now it is time to name the 7 singers who felt the wrath of Diana Ross. Number 1. Florence Ballard. Florence Ballard was not just a member of the Supremes, she was one of its original founders. But as Diana Ross rose to the front of the group, Florence faded into the background. What began as sisterhood turned into silent war. Florence felt betrayed. She believed Diana, along with Motown boss Berry Gordy, pushed her out of the spotlight and later out of the group. The tensions boiled when Diana started getting solo leads, more attention, and the group's name changed to Diana Ross the Supremes. That was the final insult. Florence did not stay silent. She spoke out in interviews, calling Diana selfish, cold, and power-hungry. She claimed Diana never supported her and was willing to step on anyone to stay on top. Their sisterhood was shattered. Diana, in return, cut ties completely. She never publicly acknowledged Florence's pain and rarely mentioned her in later years. When Florence died in 1976 at just 32, broke and broken, Diana did attend her funeral, but many said it was only for appearance. Some fans still believe Florence was the real star, and Diana used her ambition to erase her. That wound never healed. Diana never forgave Florence for going public, and Florence never forgave Diana for taking everything. Their story is one of betrayal, jealousy, and deep emotional scars. It was the first and most painful feud of Diana Ross' career, and one that would define how she handled rivals for the rest of her life. Number 2. Mary Wilson. Mary Wilson and Diana Ross began as teenage friends chasing dreams. Together with Florence Ballard, they formed the Supremes. But friendship in show business does not always survive fame. As Motown's spotlight shifted solely onto Diana, Mary felt pushed aside. She watched as Diana became the face of the group, received solo leads, and even had her name added to the group title. It was not just favoritism, it was erasure. Mary was hurt. She believed Diana had betrayed the spirit of sisterhood. While Diana rose, Mary stood in the shadows, forced to clap and smile behind her. But she did not stay silent forever. In her explosive memoir, Dreamgirl, My Life as a Supreme, Mary exposed the truth as she saw it. Diana's ego, her ambition, her manipulations. The book shook the music world, and Diana was furious. After that, their relationship became icy. Diana saw Mary as a traitor, someone who used personal history to sell books and tarnish her name. Their public reunions were awkward and cold, filled with fake smiles and quiet tension. Even decades later, the bitterness remained. Attempts to reunite the Supremes for a farewell tour fell apart. Diana was accused of demanding more money than Mary and Cindy Birdsong, refusing to treat them as equals. Mary called it disrespectful. Diana walked away. Their friendship was never healed. What started in harmony ended in silence. Diana did not just dislike Mary, she saw her as a painful reminder of what was lost, what was exposed, and what could never be forgiven. Number 3. Patti LaBelle. Patti LaBelle and Diana Ross were both powerhouse voices, both legends, but they were never friends. In fact, what existed between them was more like silent competition laced with hidden fire. Patti was bold, raw, and real. Diana was polished, elegant, and mysterious, and that difference caused a cold war in the soul music world. According to insiders, Patti often felt Diana looked down on her. Patti's style was explosive and filled with heart, while Diana's was refined and controlled. Behind closed doors, Patti reportedly called Diana phony and calculated, claiming she was more concerned with appearances than truth. Patti believed Diana was given too much credit for being a Motown darling, while others, like herself, had to fight harder for respect. The tension came to a head during various award shows and charity events where the two barely exchanged words. On one occasion, Patti was set to perform, and Diana allegedly requested not to be seated near her. Their teams avoided putting them in the same room, knowing the energy could shift instantly. What hurt most was not just the coldness, it was the lack of support. Patti often lifted up other female artists. Diana, in Patti's view, stayed in her own bubble, unwilling to share her spotlight. There were no kind words, no collaborations, no mutual admiration. It was not just competition, it was personal. Diana never addressed Patti directly, but her silence spoke volumes. The diva war stayed quiet, but everyone in the industry felt the heat. Number 4. Aretha Franklin. Diana Ross may have been the queen of Motown, but Aretha Franklin was the undisputed queen of soul. And when two thrones exist in one kingdom, a battle is almost certain. Behind their public smiles was a rivalry so intense, it echoed through the decades. Diana Ross and Aretha Franklin never had an open war, but the tension was always there, lingering like a storm. Aretha believed in raw talent and letting the voice speak for itself. Diana, with her style, grace, and Berry Gordy's powerful backing, often relied on image and presentation. Aretha saw it as shallow. Insiders say Aretha mocked Diana in private, questioning her vocal ability and calling her Berry's manufactured princess. She believed Diana's success was built more on privilege than power. That hurt Diana deeply. She worked hard, sacrificed friendships, and shaped a generation. But to Aretha, that was not enough. Their feud surfaced publicly when Aretha once corrected a journalist who mentioned Diana Ross in the same breath. "I sing," Aretha said sharply. "She entertains." That line cut like a knife. Diana never clapped back publicly, but those close to her said she carried a quiet resentment. She avoided events Aretha attended and never praised her in interviews. Even when Aretha passed in 2018, Diana's tribute was brief and cold compared to others. For Diana, Aretha was not just a rival. She was a constant reminder of everything she was accused of not being. The pain of never being seen as enough by the Queen of Soul left a scar that never truly healed. Number 5. Beyonce. Diana Ross opened the doors for black female artists in the music world, but when Beyonce rose to power, some say Diana felt something no one expected: threatened. Beyonce, like Diana, came from a girl group, Destiny's Child, and then soared into solo superstardom. She had the voice, the presence, the films, the glamour. She was, to many, the modern-day Diana Ross, and that comparison made Diana uneasy. At first, Diana smiled in interviews, congratulated Beyonce on her performance as Dina Jones in Dreamgirls, a role inspired by Diana herself. But behind that smile, close friends say Diana was hurt. She believed Beyonce was praised for copying her blueprint without giving proper respect. To Diana, it was more than just art. It was personal history being rewritten. Things got worse when fans and media began calling Beyonce the new Diana Ross. That title stung. Diana spent decades building her name, enduring pain, sacrifices, and public battles. To her, Beyonce had the luxury of control, freedom, and timing that Diana never had. But instead of honoring the original queen, Diana felt Beyonce often kept her distance. There were missed invitations, cold shoulders at galas, and awkward red carpet encounters. While Beyonce credited many legends in her speeches, Diana's name was almost always missing. Diana never publicly lashed out, but those close to her said she often dismissed Beyonce as manufactured elegance. It was not just jealousy, it was pain. Pain of being forgotten, overshadowed, replaced. In Beyonce, Diana did not just see a star, she saw the fear of becoming history. Number 6. Cher. On the surface, Diana Ross and Cher had a lot in common. Two groundbreaking women, both fashion icons, both adored by millions. But beneath the lights and sequins was a bitter, unspoken rivalry. Cher's rise in television and music in the late 1970s clashed directly with Diana's reign, and what followed was a Cold War filled with backhanded compliments and stolen spotlights. Their tension peaked during award shows and guest appearances. Diana, who prided herself on being elegant and refined, often felt Cher was wild, unpredictable, and attention-hungry. Cher, on the other hand, saw Diana as controlling, overly polished, and unwilling to share the stage with anyone she could not dominate. When both women were invited to the same events, organizers had to tread carefully. Rumors spread that Diana once refused to perform on the same night Cher was scheduled, allegedly telling a producer, "There's only room for one legend at a time." Their styles clashed. While Diana presented herself as royalty, Cher danced between outrageous and fearless. Cher's boldness became her power, and Diana saw that as a threat, not to her talent, but to her image. Even when both were celebrated in later years, they rarely appeared together and never collaborated. The silence between them said more than words ever could. To the public, it looked like two queens in separate castles, but in Diana's eyes, Cher was more than just competition. She was the woman who dared to sparkle louder, and Diana never forgave her for it. Number 7. Barbra Streisand. Diana Ross had always been the shining star in any room, until Barbra Streisand walked in. With her powerhouse voice and undeniable presence, Barbra became one of the few performers Diana could never outshine, and that truth quietly haunted her. Their feud was never loud, but it was sharp. Both women were icons in music and film, but when awards season rolled around, it was always Barbra taking home the accolades. Barbra won Oscars. Barbra earned critical praise, and despite Diana's efforts in movies like Lady Sings the Blues, it seemed she could never escape Barbra's shadow. Diana once confided to a friend, "They always see her as the real talent. What am I, just glitter?" That quote captured the raw pain behind Diana's smile. Their tension deepened during a charity event where Diana offered to sing a duet. Barbra allegedly declined coldly. Insiders claimed she did not consider Diana a vocal match. That insult stung deeply. It was not just rejection, it was humiliation. While Barbra was respected by the industry elite, Diana often felt like an outsider, fighting for her place. And seeing Barbra glide through success with grace and applause left Diana bitter. It was not envy, it was exhaustion. The constant comparisons, the constant judgment. In her heart, Diana believed Barbra never acknowledged her struggle, her legacy, or her pain. She felt invisible beside Barbra's brilliance. So Diana walked away not just from friendship, but from any space Barbra occupied. For Diana, Barbra was not just competition. She was the reminder that sometimes elegance alone was not enough. Diana Ross may have worn diamonds, but her journey was carved in pain. Behind the applause, there were heartbreaks. Behind the fame, there were betrayals. She smiled for the world, but carried scars only a few ever saw. The 7 singers she clashed with were not just rivals. Hey were reminders of what it cost to stay on top. In her silence lived anger, pride, and wounds left untreated. She was not perfect, but she was powerful. And in a world that often tried to dim her light, Diana Ross chose to burn brighter, even if it meant burning bridges forever.